This is CrisisCast 2020 with me, Toby Goodman, a podcast where I get timely wisdom from experts in life and business. These guests will answer my 5 questions, sharing wisdom and insights to help you and me get through this global shitstorm. It's taken me just 5 to 6 days to interview 9 incredible people. A few more, in fact, but for this launch, you're getting this show and 9 interviews for CrisisCast 2020, and then 1 per week thereafter. So do subscribe where you get your podcasts. In case you're wondering if it's worth your time listening to, honestly, I don't know. I don't know who you are or where you are, unless I've personally sent you a link, in which case I fully expect you to listen to every single minute and fill my inbox with praise and admiration. But to give you a quick global overview, I thought I'd summarise my findings, my key takeaways from speaking to 9 well-educated, well-informed people from across the globe. Number 1, many of us feel helpless but are beginning to accept the fact that we are where we are. Number 2, as I've long suspected, people are decent and they care about people, community over business growth. Alongside that, most people aren't really interested in politicising this. It's here, and we get to choose how to react and deal with it using the skills we have. Number 3, sales and marketing is a tricky thing to talk about, but can still be done ethically through the shower of shit we find ourselves in. Let me expand on that a little bit. Unless you're selling essentials, asking for the sale today is probably far from appropriate. Maybe not, I don't know, but probably. The decent people I've interviewed so far, and many of these are very savvy marketing pros, seem to be all very aware of this. Decent marketing is about awareness. It's not about arm-twisting sales. If you're any good at marketing, you're putting value out into the market you serve. But we need to be increasingly aware of giving away too much in case we're perceived to be lower value when we're ready to sell on the other side of this. The simple way of looking at this is your marketing should focus on the what, not the how. It's okay to talk about problems you help solve, but do think twice about putting it all out there. The what still has value because, of course, it gives the right prospect clarity. Number 4, if you run a small business, an SME, you are in a very, very strong position to, excuse me while I barf out a buzzword, pivot. Seriously though, you might feel small and like your government are letting you fall through the cracks, but think of all that red tape people are having to cut through in those big businesses. If you need to change direction, you can today. Number 5, single source dependency has always been risky. Having a job is risky. From a business perspective, to survive, it's worth reassessing your skills. What was considered an unexpected added bonus last week could now be the absolute core of your offer, with your old core offering now being something most people aren't looking for right now. Number 6, contrary to many memes flying around, catching up on those books and learning that language you've always been meaning to isn't really an option because even if we're in good health, we don't have all the time in the world. In fact, just because we aren't travelling and living our old, normal lives, many of us are forcibly spending time with family more in the shape of homeschooling, or by choice, of course, making more frequent calls to parents and friends, especially those who live alone, because, well, that's important and maybe now more than ever. Finally, number 7, lockdowns haven't stopped us communicating. In fact, the positive for me has been that I've used this lockdown to have meaningful conversations with people who wouldn't have had the time to have them with me last month. And through that, I've used this podcast to keep in touch with friends and clients. And I've also been able to create small assets in the form of these podcasts that those guests were kind enough to give me their time and are able to share with their community. That's ethical positioning for the future. Yes, it's marketing, but I believe it's the right sort of marketing for today. Though thankfully, it seems that in some cases now could be the absolute optimum time for you to start a podcast. At the start of this show, I said I didn't know if this podcast would be your kind of thing. If you've listened so far, maybe it is, and you should check out the gems of wisdoms from my guests so far and make sure you subscribe to get more as the podcast is updated. And if you're starting to think about if podcasting might be right for you, then welcome to the increasing community of listeners who are now identifying themselves as PodCurious. To help you though, you can grab the free guide I've written, Podstar, where you'll discover the 7 steps we use here at Podcast Network Solutions with each of our clients to produce over 2,000 podcasts each month. To get instant access, just head over to podcastnetworksolutions.com. This episode of CrisisCast 2020 was produced by me in London and Kate Astrakhan in Michigan, with artwork by Ryan Field and sound design by Lee Turner. CrisisCast 2020 is a production from Podcast Network Solutions, a full-service podcast production company who are ready to help you plan, record, produce and promote your message with podcasting. To find out more and grab your copy of Podstar if you're feeling PodCurious, visit us at podcastnetworksolutions.com.